What's up, tribe? How you guys doing? Go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and I hope you like this video. So this is going to be part 4 of Menudo Forever Young, and I'm going to just go ahead and be honest with you guys. This really probably could have been 3 parts. First of all, part 4 was only 37 minutes when the first 3 parts were almost an hour. So that let you know right there they were kind of just pulling. And I would say probably the first 15 to 20 minutes they were kind of already regurgitating what they kind of already said. So I feel like they were just trying to make this 4 parts, but I'll go ahead and give you guys some of the new stuff. After the big scandal broke, things just sort of kept going. It didn't really affect the group. I mean, it affected the group in a small way, but it didn't end the group. I should say that. They definitely lost money. They lost bookings. They lost revenue, but the group kept going. They kept adding new members, and it kept going. The budget was cut, and some people left. Jose being one of the people who sort of kind of cut back to really just a part-time status. He kind of showed up when he felt like it. He helped out where he could, and then he did his own thing. And if you guys remember, Jose was the choreographer that goes all the way back to the beginning of Menudo. And he was always like, he was their stylist, their choreographer, you know, kind of like their all-around person to handle things that they needed as far as clothing and styling and choreography kind of stuff. The kids weren't getting paid off of merchandising or anything else. They were strictly getting paid off of concerts. And they said that the money went from $1,000 a show to $500 a show to $250 a show. And honestly, really the only reason why a lot of their parents allowed them to even be with the group after all of the bad publicity is really because of the money they thought they were getting. Remember, they targeted kids from poor neighborhoods. So they would kind of need the money, right? And it went really low budget. They were staying in like no-tail motels, and they were playing, you know, much smaller venues and things like that. And again, this is stuff that we kind of already sort of covered. So then they started really getting into more specific examples of abuse. Again, we heard about the abuse, but we're just getting some more examples with the newer guys. There was a lot of mental abuse. There was this whole thing about not flaunting your sexuality. There were some members of the group who were like, listen, I was gay. Everybody knew I was gay. Even though I wasn't open about it, they could tell, kind of thing. And Eduardo was very clear about not wanting people to be able to see that they were gay or identify that they had gay, you know, tendencies, I guess. But the flip side is Eduardo was actually grooming the kids and had them around predators. And again, we've told those stories about the kids who were violated. And this is all allegedly, because I got to say that. And things like that. There was a story told about one of the kids who he came out when he was 17 and he had a boyfriend while he was with the group. And even though nobody really knew that was his boyfriend at the time, like, you know, and he said Eduardo sort of fell in love with his boyfriend, who he thought was just his friend. And he treated them all to a trip to Six Flags. And he said that night, he said, which was really weird because at that point, the group didn't have any money and they could barely pay us, but he's treating us to a, you know, all expense paid trip to Six Flags over Georgia. And, and that night, they all stayed at the same hotel room, and Eduardo was trying to get the guy's boyfriend to sleep in the bed with him, and he was like, I don't want to sleep in this bed, like I don't want to sleep with him, and they created a situation where he ended up sleeping in the bed with like some other dude that he didn't want no parts of, and he got really upset, and Eduardo left, and he was like, I can't believe y'all don't trust me, I wouldn't do anything to y'all. And he left, and he was in his car. He was like crying, and the dude, you know, went up to him and was like, you know, like, we're sorry, like we didn't mean to upset you or whatever. And according to him, he said Eduardo confessed that a lot of what he was accused of was true, and you know, I don't know why he would confess, but they said he did, child. So shortly after all of this happened, Menudo pretty much like Menudo thrived off of, you know, the formula of when somebody left the group, somebody else came in. When somebody left the group, somebody else came in. And of course, at their height, people were begging to get in the group. Thousands and thousands of kids would audition to get in the group. But eventually, it got to the point where people so basically, after they couldn't get really new people interested in joining the group, they, again, their heyday was over. They said Eduardo sold Menudo, and they became MDO. And MDO never really caught on, and MDO never really did much of anything. Um, so in 2014, Roy actually comes out and tells his story, and he talks about his abuse at the hands of Eduardo. And what we find out is Roy didn't even have to actually audition for the group. He was chosen, and he basically was Eduardo's boy toy. Because I ain't gonna say he was his boyfriend because he was 14 years old. And the other guys in the group said, "Hey, we knew that something was different with Roy because he basically got to do whatever he wanted to do. Like he could, he got privileges that we didn't get. He got to do things that we didn't get to do. So we knew something was different. We just did not. Again, we were kids and we didn't really understand what it was." They talked about the fact that Eduardo had guys around him that were basically perverts that liked boys. We already talked about that, how some of them took advantage of the boys, and that, one of the boys was saying, Eduardo never touched me, but his friends did. You know, um, um, I'm sorry. And they said that basically nobody believed any of the kids that did speak out at the time, because at that time Eduardo was so powerful. In that moment, in that time period, he really was powerful, and he brought so much prestige and, so much to Puerto Rico. We talked about that already as well. Um, uh, 1988, the kids, they were men now. There was a radio show that kind of did a "Where Are They Now?" And when the show aired, the fans started showing up at the radio. It was at a radio station. The fans started showing up at the radio station because they thought Menudo was inside, and it caused such a ruckus. They showed footage of. I mean, they basically was shutting the radio station down, and security had to be called, and the police had to be called. And so a group of the guys got together and was like, you know what? People still want to see us. Like, so they did a reunion tour. And from time to time, they still go out on tour. They still perform as Menudo. And it was a group of them that did it. And they said that Eduardo actually tried to sue them and tried to get a piece of the pie. And they were like, yeah, nah. One of the guys has actually become a lawyer, and he's their attorney. And he's like, yeah, nah, you're not getting a piece of this. So whatever they did, they crossed their T's and they dotted their I's, because they were like, nah, bro, you're not getting no parts of this. I guess because he sold the name Menudo, whoever owns it now, I guess they got permission from, and that's who they pay their royalties to, or whatever, however that works legally. One of the guys one thing I can respect is that none of these guys that spoke, let me say this, that spoke in the documentary, even if it wasn't their experience, they didn't discredit or try to discredit any of the other boys. They didn't say, well, he didn't do it to me, so I don't know what these people are talking about, or he was nice to me, or I never had this experience. And what I can appreciate, one of the guys even said, he said, listen, everybody's experience with Menudo is not the same, but I don't discount their experience. If they said they were abused, then they were abused. If they said they were sexually assaulted, then they were sexually assaulted. I'm not going to discredit their experience because it wasn't my experience. And I'm going to be honest with you, I feel like that's something that we as women don't do. Look at the R. Kelly situation. You have so many women that are like, well, that ain't never happened to me. I worked with R. Kelly and he never did it to me. And it's like they want to discount somebody else's experience. So I can respect that the people who were not abused say, listen, it wasn't me. But I don't discount that it happened to them. So what we find out basically is that over a 20-year time span, there were 32, they're now men, but 32 members of Menudo. So 20 years, 32 kids. Well, they were kids at the time. And then we talk about the lasting legacy of Menudo, which I said this before. They were the blueprint for the boy band. You know, when you look at the NSYNCs, the Backstreet Boys, hell, even what's that group now? MTO, that's out of Korea. When we look at the boy band formula, like they created the formula. Especially these boy bands that are created and not organic. And we know that groups like the Backstreet Boys and NSYNC were created. They were not organic, like, oh, these were friends. Well, no, the Backstreet Boys, they were friends, right? Weren't they friends from Boston? No, that's New Kids on the Block I'm thinking about. I'm talking about, okay, y'all know what I'm talking about. That's New Kids on the Block that's from Boston. Okay. But they also talked about the fact that Menudo also sort of set the precedent. Like, they were the first Latino or Latinx group that could sell out stadiums. They were the first group that could sell millions and millions of records singing in Spanish. Like, they set that standard and they set that tone. When you start thinking about, Latino performers, and people, singing in Spanish and becoming, crossing over into other markets outside of Latin America. So that's definitely a legacy that they left. And of course, we know the Ricky Martins, and there's another guy, Roy somebody, who became big stars. Now, and Roy was the one that told his story, the one they said was like the boy that Eduardo kind of groomed. They did, like, all of the guys that participated in the documentary, they kind of told us what they're doing now. And a lot of them are still in entertainment. They're actors. They still perform in their own bands or different, groups. They're in the entertainment business. Some of them are choreographers. Some of them are dancers. Some of them have their own businesses and their own organizations. What I found to be interesting is that two of the more whose stories seem to be more horrific, I would say, for lack of a better word, they're the ones that they didn't list what they're doing now. Now, I'm not saying they're not doing anything, but they chose to just kind of say, hey, I'm just living in light. I'm moving the way I need to move, whatever. But they didn't really give us what they're doing now. And I don't know if it's because maybe they don't want to put it out there, or if maybe they are still dealing in their trauma and they haven't really moved past certain things. But they have lawyers, they have entertainment, again, a little bit of everything. So I just want to thank the guys that shared their story, and even the ones who didn't, who chose not to participate for whatever their reasons are. Again, a couple of them spoke on the fact that, listen, there was a lot of bad, but I also was a part of something really, really positive and really good overall. Like, Menudo was a good thing. The people around Menudo weren't a good thing. So anyway, that's it, you guys. When you see this, I'm on vacation because I'm going to post this while I'm on vacation. But when I get back, we're going to do a live conversation and we're going to talk about this whole thing, you guys. So I will see y'all then. Talk to y'all later. Peace.